Arionne Curry really out here acting like she just won the biggest prize in Huntsville. But baby, from the outside looking in, it's given anything but a win. The way she's been moving lately, the posts, the smiles, the energy, it all feels like someone trying to prove something instead of living in peace. You ever see somebody trying so hard to convince the world that they're happy that it ends up doing the opposite? That's exactly the vibe Arionne's given. And when you mix that with Martell Holt's quiet little smirks and his sudden calmness, you know something's brewing behind the scenes that ain't as pretty as those 60 roses she showed off. Because let's be real, those roses might have been cute for Instagram, but they don't come close to fixing the mess that's been created over the years.
Now, let's talk about what's really going on. Arionne has been online posting like life couldn't be better, smiling, talking about growth, pretending she's unbothered. But the timing says it all. Every time something shifts with Martell and Melody, Arionne pops up acting brand new, like clockwork. And this time, the energy's different, because Martell just lost a major piece of his custody arrangement with Melody. That man went from having his kids 7 days on, 7 days off, to just weekends and one weekday. That's a big change, and you can tell it hit him hard. But while most people would be reflecting, Martell's over there giving out roses and energy to someone who's been waiting in the shadows for years, Arionne. And Arionne's loving every bit of it. She's acting like this is her season of victory, like the storm is over and she finally got her fairy tale ending. She even made sure the world saw those 60 roses. 60, y'all! You could practically hear her saying, "He still loves me, he still chooses me." But what's funny is, while she's over there counting petals, the rest of us can see the pattern. Martell's been doing the same song and dance for years. When he messes up, when he feels down, when life humbles him, he runs right back to the familiar. And Arionne has always been his comfort zone, the one he calls when everything else falls apart. But that's not love, that's convenience. Now, if you look deeper, you'll see what's really sad about all of this. Arionne doesn't even realize that she's celebrating being someone's escape, not their choice. She's smiling about being his peace, when really, she's just his distraction. Because if Martell truly wanted to build something with her, he would have done it long ago. Years have passed, and what do they have to show for it? No ring, no public commitment, no real partnership. Just broken promises and Instagram posts. Every time Martell hits a low point, he goes back to Arionne, whispers a few sweet words, sends a few gifts, and she's right there waiting like the story's finally about to change. But it never does. And that's what makes this whole situation so frustrating to watch. Because Arionne could have moved on. She could have rebuilt her life, created her own identity outside of this mess. But instead, she's still tied to a man who once told the world she wasn't even on his level. Remember that? The interviews, the shade, the denial. Martell has embarrassed this woman publicly more times than anyone can count. Yet here she is, smiling like everything's perfect. It's painful, really, because it shows just how deep her need to win runs. It's not about love anymore. It's about proving a point. Proving she's not the one who lost. But baby, you can't win if the prize isn't real. Now let's talk about that caption she posted with the roses. We started off wrong, but fast forward to now, and everything is right. How it's supposed to be. Girl, what? How can something that started in betrayal and pain suddenly become right? There's no peace that comes from chaos. And no happiness that comes from hurting others. And deep down, Arionne knows that. That's why she keeps trying to paint over the cracks. The pretty words, the aesthetic posts, the songs playing in the background, they're all distractions from the truth. Because when you have to say, "it's right," over and over, it's probably because you're trying to convince yourself it is. Now, let's talk about that caption she posted with the roses. We started off wrong, but fast forward to now, and everything is right, how it's supposed to be. Girl, what? How can something that started in betrayal and pain suddenly become right? There's no peace that comes from chaos and no happiness that comes from hurting others. And deep down, Arionne knows that. That's why she keeps trying to paint over the cracks. The pretty words, the aesthetic posts, the songs playing in the background, they're all distractions from the truth. Because when you have to say it's right over and over, it's probably because you're trying to convince yourself it is. The song she chose for that post said everything too. For you, I'd give up all stability. That line hit hard, because that's exactly what she did. She gave up peace, dignity, reputation, all for a man who has never given her the stability she deserves. And it's wild because even after all that, she's still trying to make it look like a fairy tale. But the truth is, Martell's love has always come with chaos. Every woman connected to him ends up drained, not uplifted. Melody learned that the hard way, and now Arionne's learning the same lesson. She just doesn't want to admit it yet. Now, people online have been saying Martell might be helping Arionne financially again, maybe even paying for her schooling. If that's true, then it's clear what's happening here. Martell loves control. He thrives on being needed. When he can't control one area of his life, he tightens his grip somewhere else. So him giving Arionne money or support isn't about love. It's about power. It's about making sure she stays close, stays dependent, stays tied to him emotionally and financially. And Arionne, instead of seeing it for what it is, sees it as proof of commitment. But we've seen this movie before, haven't we? He does just enough to keep her hooked, but never enough to build a future. And speaking of the future, let's not forget Melody. Because while Arionne is out here celebrating roses and recycled gestures, Melody's been out here thriving. That woman has been glowing in a way that only peace can give you. She's focused on her kids, her music, her businesses, and most importantly, her healing. She's living proof that peace after pain is possible. And that's what burns both Martell and Arionne the most. Because no matter how many roses they post or how many quotes they write, the world can see that Melody is the one who truly came out on top. She lost a husband, yes, but she gained her freedom. And that's priceless. Now, let's be honest. Martell's calm lately feels suspicious, because that man doesn't sit still for long. Whenever he's quiet, it usually means he's plotting something or juggling multiple situations. And people online have already started whispering that there might be new women in the picture. So while Arionne's over there smiling like the queen of the castle, Martell might already be laying the groundwork for his next storyline. That's the sad part. She's always a chapter, never the book. And until she realizes that, she's going to keep playing herself. You know what really hits different, though? The way Arionne still talks about her man, her man, her man. Every time she says it, it sounds less convincing. Because if you really have a man, you don't need to keep reminding people. Real relationships don't need proof. Love that's secure doesn't need an audience. But Arionne's love always comes with a post, a quote, a video. It's performative. She's not showing us happiness. She's showing us insecurity. And honestly, it's sad to watch, because deep down, she's not fooling anyone. Even her biggest offenders can see that she's stuck in the same cycle she's been in for years. And let's not forget how Martell moves. This man has a pattern so predictable, it's almost comical. He messes up, gets caught, apologizes, sends flowers, love bombs his way back in, and then repeats the same behavior. Melody saw it. She lived it. She even shared stories about him sending her 5 dozen roses after arguments. And what did she do? She left them in the garage, because she'd learned that flowers don't fix betrayal. Roses wilt, but the pain lingers. And now, years later, Arionne is receiving the same flowers, falling for the same trick, thinking it means something different this time. But history doesn't lie. If anything, Martell's behavior proves that he hasn't changed one bit. He's still trying to manage multiple situations, still blaming Melody for her problems, still refusing to take accountability. And Arionne, instead of stepping back and realizing she deserves better, keeps stepping up to play the role of the loyal one. But loyalty to someone who's only loyal to their ego will never lead to happiness. It just leads to heartbreak in slow motion. And let's be real, social media is not letting this one slide. The comments under Arionne's posts are brutal. People calling her delusional, saying she needs therapy, not roses. Others pointing out how she's celebrating being the other woman like it's a badge of honor. The internet remembers, and it doesn't forget. People watched this story unfold for years. They saw the lies, the pain, the disrespect, so no amount of filters or captions can erase the truth. And what's worse, every time she posts, she reopens the wound. Instead of healing, she's performing. Meanwhile, Martell's sitting back enjoying the attention, because that's what he thrives on, being talked about, being at the center of drama. He loves the power, the control, the chaos, and as long as Arionne keeps playing into it, he'll keep the cycle going. Because for him, it's not about love, it's about ego. He doesn't want to see her move on because that would mean losing control, but he also doesn't want to commit fully because that would mean accountability. So he stays in the middle, keeping her emotionally stuck while he does whatever he wants. It's toxic, and everyone can see it but her. And honestly, the saddest part of all this isn't even the drama. It's the wasted potential. Arionne is a beautiful woman, smart, capable, with her own light. But she dimmed it chasing after someone else's. She tied her worth to Martell's validation. And now every time she posts something about love or peace,